In the history of humanity, few figures have sparked as much debate and controversy as Jesus of Nazareth. But beyond religious beliefs and the gospel narratives, what is the historical truth about this man who changed the course of history? In this documentary, we will explore the evidence for the existence of Jesus, highlighting historical sources, both Christian and non-Christian, that attest to his life and impact on this earth. Let us talk about the Gospel writings. The Gospels of the New Testament are often regarded as the primary sources regarding the life of Jesus. Although they have a theological intent, they contain historical details that can be analyzed. The accounts of Jesus' life, his teachings, and his crucifixion are central elements that have shaped the Christian faith. He was crucified under Pontius Pilate. This fact is corroborated by several sources, which reinforces its historicity. While the Gospels provide detailed accounts of the life and teachings of Jesus, it is essential to also consider non-Christian sources that attest to his existence. These external testimonies offer valuable perspectives, reinforcing the idea that Jesus was a recognized historical figure even outside the Christian context. Flavius Josephus, a first-century Jewish historian, is one of the most significant sources regarding Jesus. In his work Antiquities of the Jews, written around 93-94 AD, Josephus mentions Jesus in a passage known as the Testimonium Flavianum. He describes Jesus as a wise man, a doer of marvelous deeds, and a teacher who attracted many disciples, both among the Jews and the Greeks. Here is what he says about Jesus. At that time there lived Jesus, a wise man, if indeed one ought to call him a man, for he performed surprising deeds and was a teacher of those who accept the truth with pleasure. Josephus also refers to the crucifixion of Jesus under Pontius Pilate, which is a widely accepted historical fact. He notes that despite his death, the disciples of Jesus continued to preach his message, claiming that he was the Christ. This testimony is particularly important as it is one of the few writings by a Jewish historian that mentions Jesus, and it is often cited to support the idea that Jesus truly existed. Another Roman historian, Tacitus, mentions Jesus in his Annals, written around 116 AD. In this text, Tacitus discusses the persecution of Christians under Emperor Nero, referring to Christus, who suffered under Pontius Pilate. Tacitus writes, Christus, from whom the name had its origin, was executed during the reign of Tiberius by the procurator Pontius Pilate. This mention is significant for several reasons. First, it confirms that Jesus was known even outside Christian circles. And second, it establishes a historical link with recognized political figures of the time, further reinforcing the idea that Jesus indeed existed. Another non-Christian testimony comes from Suetonius, a Roman biographer, who wrote about the lives of the emperors. In his Lives of the 12 Caesars, Suetonius mentions disturbances caused by Christians in Rome during the reign of Claudius, around 49 AD. Although he does not name Jesus directly, he alludes to the presence of Christians and their beliefs, indicating that the figure of Jesus was already well established at that time. These non-Christian sources, while less detailed than the Gospels, provide additional insight into the existence of Jesus. They show that even outside of Christian writings, there was recognition of his life and impact, which strengthens the argument that Jesus was a real historical figure. By examining these non-Christian sources, we uncover a growing consensus among historians regarding the existence of Jesus. The writings of Josephus, Tacitus, and Suetonius testify to Jesus' significance in history, not only as a religious figure, but also as a man who left a lasting mark on his time. These external testimonies complement the Gospel accounts and contribute to establishing a more complete portrait of Jesus as a historical individual. The historical context in which Jesus lived is also crucial for understanding his existence. In the 1st century, Palestine was a region under Roman domination, and religious and political tensions were palpable. Jesus preached a message that resonated with many Jews, which ultimately led to his arrest and crucifixion. Another key element in the argument for the existence of Jesus is the testimony of his disciples. After his death, these men, who had initially fled in fear, became bold witnesses to his resurrection. They preached his message throughout the world, often at the peril of their own lives. Why would men be willing to die for a belief in a man who never existed? He appeared to more than 500 brethren at one time. This collective testimony is a strong element that supports the idea that Jesus truly existed. Paul's letters, written in the 50s, are among the earliest written testimonies about Jesus. In his first letter to the Corinthians, Paul mentions appearances of the resurrected Jesus to witnesses, stating, "He appeared to more than 500 brethren at one time." This collective testimony is a powerful element that supports the idea that Jesus really existed. Despite this evidence, some continue to doubt the historical existence of Jesus. Proponents of the mythicist thesis argue that the Gospel accounts are legendary constructions. However, the majority of historians agree that there is sufficient evidence to assert that a man named Jesus lived in Israel in the 1st century. The question of the existence of Jesus is complex and sparks passionate debates. However, the evidence, both Christian and non-Christian, along with the testimonies of the disciples and the writings of Paul, shows us that there indeed was a historical Jesus. By exploring these elements, we discover not only a man, but also the lasting impact he had on the world. Thank you for watching this documentary. To learn more about the history of Jesus and his legacy, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. If you would like me to continue or develop certain sections, please let me know.